Hello! Welcome to the Jagger Building Reports and Looker training, where you'll learn how to answer questions about your spend using the reporting tool in SpendRadar. The focus of today's training is to teach you how to navigate Looker, which is the new visualization and reporting tool for SpendRadar. Primarily, you'll learn how to build reports to answer questions about your organization's spend. The product we're focused on today is SpendRadar, and the target audience for today's training is any Jagger customer who is migrating from QlikView to Looker. The prerequisite for today's training is the 17.2 product release feature demo for SpendRadar, which is a video available in Jagger University, where you found this recording. Also in Jagger University is the Building Reports and Looker reference guide that can be downloaded for your use after this training when you're in your site validating your data. In today's training, we're going to cover several topics about Looker, starting with Looker Basics, where we'll go through a brief demonstration of how it works and some terminology so that we're all on the same page. Next, we'll get into dashboards and a little Dashboards 101. The process of Looker really starts with a dashboard and visualization, and then you can explore from there to find answers about your spend, which leads us to the next topic of how you find answers using the Explore function. This is also where you'll build your own reports and then go on to save them, and then you can even edit them along with editing dashboards where you collect those looks or reports together. And then finally, this training will wrap up with some details about validation. So if you are a customer who's migrating from QlikView to Looker, you'll want to pay attention to this last topic about validation. We'll give you some suggestions for what you need to validate between the two sites, as well as some sample activities that you can perform in your site to get comfortable with Looker. So now let's get into some Looker basics. First, let's take a look. I'll take you through the application so you can see how to navigate to the reporting and analysis in SpendRadar, as well as how to navigate Looker itself within the reporting and analysis area. So I'll switch over to my web browser, and here you can see I'm logged into the Jagger Source-to-Pay suite, sometimes called Select Site internally. You may hear that from our professionals here at Jagger. If this is your first time logging into the Jagger Source-to-Pay suite, you'll have received your login information from your account manager, and from there you'll log in and you'll see your name in the upper right-hand corner. The menu of options on the left-hand side depends on which Jagger products you have activated and which you have permission to use. But for our SpendRadar customers, you'll go to the Reporting menu, then SpendRadar, and then a number of these options within the menu are used by our professional services team for SpendRadar, where they're classifying your data, normalizing your supplier names, preparing everything for the reporting. Once they turn over the reporting to you, you'll be able to use the View Reporting and Analysis and View Reporting and Analysis Audit options to access your Looker reporting. Now, if you're going through validation, you'll want to make sure to choose the Audit instance, as I have highlighted here. If you're used to logging into the Jagger Source-to-Pay suite for your QlikView reporting, and now you're migrating to Looker, you'll see an additional option that says View Looker Reporting and Analysis Audit. You'll use that option for validation. If you have never logged into the Jagger Source-to-Pay suite, you'll only see the View Reporting and Analysis Audit option that you see here. You'll use either of the audit options for your validation, and then once everything is confirmed and you've signed off on it, you'll use View Reporting and Analysis to actually work in your reporting to answer questions for your organization. So you'll just click on View Reporting and Analysis Audit, and then it will pull up the summary dashboard. Now, what you see here in the middle is the Looker instance within Jagger Source-to-Pay. So everything that surrounds it, kind of the wrapper outside of that, is the Jagger Source-to-Pay suite, where you can navigate to other products if you have those activated. But if you just want to focus on your reporting, you can use the full screen button to enhance or improve your real estate and the number of reports that you can see. This summary dashboard is a shared dashboard that our professional services team created for every SpendRadar customer, and it provides information like the total amount of spend, total number of supplier parents, PO count, and other details like that. You can see spend by category, top 10 suppliers, spend by those top 10 suppliers, and on to department charts, buyer charts, spend by month, and so on. There are a number of different dashboards that we have available out of the box for our SpendRadar customers, and those can be accessed from the 4-square menu that you see in the top right-hand corner. And from here, under the shared space, you'll click on your organization's name, your site name, and that will open up a number of shared dashboards that are available for you to start using the minute you get access to your site. Our professional services team has worked behind the scenes to get your data ready and prepare your site for you to make sure that the dashboards here are representing your data, and that's all pulling in for you. So you can use any of these dashboards to get started. We'll stick with the summary dashboard just for this brief demonstration. Each of these different tiles that you see on the screen are actually separate data queries. These are each called looks within the Looker terminology. Each look is a data query that's tied to a visualization or a count number, a title, things of that nature. So you can see we have bar graphs, pie charts, even a scatter plot. Each tile is a data query that's tied to visualization configuration options that you can specify in any report that you build. This shared dashboard is providing you with these standard reports, but it's really easy to dig into them to explore your data and answer additional questions. So for example, if you wanted to get into the spend by supplier top 10 and kind of look behind the scenes, maybe expand this or see additional information about each of these top 10 suppliers, you can simply go to the menu here, click Explore from here, and then that loads the Explore area of Looker. And this is really the power of Looker that puts building reports in your hands so that you have control to find your own answers for your organization. You can pull in a number of details to the data query, dimensions or anything that is found in your spend data, supplier parent names, invoice line details, that kind of information. And then measures or calculations that are run off of some of those different dimensions, like PO count or total spend. The data table is what controls the query that will be run. So if I wanted to pull in additional dimensions from my data, let's say I wanted to look at supplier parent name plus selected spend metric, which is total spend. Maybe I wanted to pull in a transaction year. I could do that by searching on the left-hand side and finding that dimension in my data, pulling that into my query, and then running that. The visualization pane is where you can configure all of the different details about the visualization for that report. So if I wanted to change the colors, or maybe I had several dimensions together, I could put them on different left and right axes. There's a number of different options within the different tabs in the visualization pane, so you can truly format that specifically to your liking or to maybe there's a presentation that you're building and you want to create a visualization for that. If you need to use specific colors, if you need to term it a specific way, you can set all of that up in the visualization configuration options. Then at the top, there's a pane for filters. If I wanted to filter on a certain year, for example, I can find that dimension on the left-hand side, say transaction date year, and then I can pull that in as a filter. So I can specifically choose in the year, let's say 2014, and then run. And now I'm looking at just the results for 2014. If I wanted to pull in the year to the table, I could do that by actually clicking there, and it will pull in the transaction year instead of just filtering that. Every time you make a change to your data query or your visualization or adding a filter, you'll just click the Run button, and that runs the query to pull in those new answers. If you're satisfied with what you've created here, you can use the gear icon to then save it so that you can always run that report again with new information or updated data. You can download that, which includes options to download the visualization itself or to download the data. So if you wanted to just download the picture, the pie chart, the bar graph, to use in a presentation outside of Looker. You can download just that, or you can download the data as well. And then you can also save it and add it to a dashboard. And this allows you to save a collection of different reports together in your own dashboard, similar to the summary dashboard we just started out with, but then this would be your dashboard that you curate. There's no limit to the number of looks that you save or the number of dashboards that you create. So you can create as many as you need to compare and analyze details about your spend. So let's get back to the presentation and go through some terminology. Now, you've heard me say the term look, and that is what Looker calls the report. That's really the go-to place to consume a single saved query of the data. So that's where a data query is being run and a visualization configuration is tied to that. So if you change the data query, adding different things to the table, different dimensions or measures, that will also update what's seen in the visualization, and that's all saved together. Then the dashboards are collections of related looks that are made visible side by side. So really, that's used as the launch point for exploring the data and finding additional answers. There's both shared dashboards that our team at Jagger has created for you to use as a initial ground zero starting point, and then you can also save dashboards in both group and personal spaces. The group spaces are used for collaboration or to limit access to certain individuals, and the personal space is used for the unique user. So you can think of it like a bookmark, a personal bookmark, or a sandbox. That's your space to do with what you want to do. Then Explore is the query configuration space that I demonstrated, where answers can be found about the data and visualizations can be created. That's really the power of Looker, where you're able to really configure exactly the report that you want to create and save. Then dimensions and measures are the elements that can be pulled in the Explore area into your data query. Dimensions are the pieces of data that can be grouped together or sliced apart. They can be physical or logical. And then the measures are the aggregations and calculations across one or many rows of data. So things like sum, minimum, maximum, average. This is really the math that's performed on top of the data. So dimensions come from your data that's been cleansed and classified. The suppliers have been normalized. And then the measures are the calculations that are run off of that. There's also some icons and buttons that you should know about in the upper right-hand corner, which you saw me use in the demonstration. Primarily, you'll use the Run button to update the look after changes are made in the Explore from Here area. Then the gear icon is seen in several areas, both for a look on a dashboard, within the Explore space. It's even seen within the data table within the Explore space. This is really your menu of options. Wherever you see the gear icon, it's like a right-click menu that you're used to using. These are all the options that you have access to. So things like Explore, Save, Remove or Delete, even downloading. There's a number of options, and I encourage you to use that as you're exploring Looker. Then the Foursquare icon is what you'll use to navigate between different dashboards and looks. So you'll use that quite frequently as you're trying to find answers about your spend. And then finally, you saw me use the Expand button so that you can get more real estate on the screen and can compare more looks and more information side by side. So next, let's get into some Dashboards 101. I mentioned briefly there are 3 different spaces that we have available in Looker: personal, group, and shared. And there are dashboards and accompanying looks within each of those spaces. Personal dashboards are created by the user who's logged in, and only that user who created the dashboard can view it. So it really is like a personal bookmark or a personal sandbox area. It can be edited, and then those changes are only seen by that user. So it's a safe space as you're getting in, going through validation, or as you're just getting comfortable with Looker. Feel free to make mistakes, make as many looks or dashboards as you want. They can always be deleted, and you're the only one who sees them. Then the group space and group dashboards within that space can be created for certain groups of users. This is kind of like a shared bookmark or something that can be used to collaborate between different individuals. On the other end of the spectrum, it can also be used to limit access to only those individuals. So some groups like category managers or the legal department or even supplier relationship managers might want to have a group space created for them so that they can share looks and share dashboards, and then only they can see those particular reports that they're building. If you are interested in the group space and using group dashboards for groups of users at your organization, work with Jagger, the professional services team, if you'd like to have those created. They'll create the groups for you and then control the exact individuals who should have access to each group. Edits to group dashboards will be seen by all users in that group, so it's not quite as private as the personal dashboard, but it is a great way to collaborate between multiple users. Then finally, the shared dashboards are the several dashboards that are available out of the box to all SpendRadar organizations. And these are seen organization-wide. They're seen by all users who have access to SpendRadar and the View Reporting and Analysis area. Shared dashboards cannot be edited, but that's a good thing. They can be used as the source of truth, again, the ground zero, and then used as a jumping point to find more answers about spend. So speaking of shared dashboards, there are a number of shared dashboards that are available out of the box, and a lot of these align to the tabs that you may have been used to seeing in QlikView. So there's the category analysis dashboard, so things like total spend by description, supplier grouping, and category. A monthly data breakout to see monthly spend, PO counts, invoice, and so on. The executive dashboard displays details like total spend, total number of supplier parents, spend by classification, even a supplier spend heat chart. Opportunity assessment shares spend and supplier comparative analysis, supplier count and PO count by supplier spend, and 80/20 suppliers. The summary dashboard is the default dashboard that you see upon entering the View Reporting and Analysis area, and this includes a number of details that can be used as a jumping off point for exploring. Things like total spend, spend by category, top 10 suppliers, and so on. Supplier data by category looks into the different category levels that you have activated for your taxonomy in your site. So it goes through each category level. If you have up to 6, those will be listed there. And it shows the supplier parent count, PO count, and total spend for each of those categories at each level. And then a shared dashboard that isn't necessarily activated for each customer out of the gate, but is available if you have the right kind of data in your source, are supplier spend and count maps. So you can see supplier count map by state and supplier spend by state. We can expand this to be global or any country if needed, if you do business globally. This does require some geographic information to be included in your data to have these built, but if you are interested, just let your Jagger Professional Services team know. So let's get into the application and navigate to shared and personal dashboards. I'll show you how filters can be used on dashboards, and then we'll drill into a look to focus the view so that we can go on to explore in the next lesson. So I'm going to use my Foursquare icon to navigate back to the different dashboards that are available. I'll just first go through the spaces that we see here. First is the personal space. When you first get into the View Reporting and Analysis Looker area, you won't see anything in the personal space. This is your sandbox to build as you'd like. But you can see I've built a few to get started here. I have 2 dashboards, and then all of the looks that I've created are listed individually. So if I just want to focus on a certain look, just focus in on that information, I can do that and view the look by itself without comparing it to any other looks. Viewing the look by itself is also how you can edit the look. So if you want to change it in any way, you can do that by going to the look itself. The group space is where that collaborative space can be created. So if you were to create that for your organization and you yourself, your user, was included in one of those groups, you'd see the group name here and go on to click that to see any dashboards and looks that are saved in that area. Anyone that has access to the group space can create, edit, and view the dashboards and looks in that space. Then finally, the shared space is where you'll find all of the out-of-the-box dashboards. So you'll click on shared, then you'll click on your site name, and you'll see all of the dashboards listed, then all of the individual looks. So just go to a dashboard to start exploring. Let's use the supplier data by category since we've already looked at the summary dashboard a bit. And at the top of many of the out-of-the-box dashboards, the shared dashboards, are filters that you can use. So here in this supplier data by category dashboard, they have filters for the 4 category levels that are available in this taxonomy. So I could just use the operators here to change what I want to filter by. And then within the field itself, it uses type ahead, as well as you can click into the field to select from the options within your data set. So if I wanted to filter just by category level 1 of business services and just see that in the dashboard below, I could do that. Just click Run to apply that filter. But today I just want to look at everything together, so I can collapse the filter pane. By default, typically the filters are set to any value. If you're seeing numbers on your dashboard that look a little funny, make sure you look up to the filters area. There might be a year filter set there. There might be a data source filter that's set there. Make sure you review those and make changes as needed to show what you're looking for. From there, you can go into each of the different looks and kind of review the information and go on to actually explore the information. This opens up the Explore area where it's taking the data query that's already been saved for the category level 1, and then you can take that and add elements to it. You can change the visualization and go on to save a new look, maybe to a personal space or group space for yourself. Now, what we can also do within the look itself, many of the data elements are clickable so that you can turn them into filters. So let's say I wanted to focus in on business services. I can click on that and then drill into business services by category level 2. What that does is opens up details about business services level 2 categories. So now I can see all of the category names here. But let's say I wanted to pull in more information or see the suppliers under each of those levels. Or maybe I wanted to limit this by year. I have the option to click on Explore from here, which will take me to add those details to my data table. Speaking of data table, you can switch between the visualization and table in this view. So if I just want to get some counts and look into the information, I can do that. But if I wanted to take it a step further and use this look as a jumping off point to create additional reports or find additional answers, I'll choose Explore from here. And then that opens the Explore from here functionality where we can pull in additional details and kind of create a new look to find additional answers for our spend. So now let's show you how to find answers and use the Explore functionality in more detail. It really does start with a look or a dashboard, typically when you first get started from a shared dashboard. You can click on any data point to drill into the data, and then hover over a look to choose Explore from here from the gear menu so that you can use that as a jumping off point. Once you get into the Explore from here functionality, you can search or browse for data dimensions and measures, then click the dimension or measure name to add it to the data query. Use any pivot or filter buttons that you see to create a pivot out of that dimension or to filter by that dimension or measure. And then expand the different filters, visualization, and data panes to explore and customize the look. Really set what you want for the data query, customize the colors, the appearance of the visualization so you can get the best picture to understand your spend, and filter it as needed by year, by source, by amount. The possibilities are endless here. And finally, whenever you make changes, make sure you click the Run button so that it will run the query and update everything there for you. This is a good point to mention. The reference guide includes the slide deck as a PDF document. So a number of the slides that you'll see in this presentation are instructional and can be used for your reference beyond training. When you're finding answers and using the pivot and filter options, the pivot can be used when you're looking at multiple dimensions together. You can pivot on one dimension to turn it into several columns, which makes the look easier to consume. Instead of listing out each row separately for year, let's say, you can make the year into different columns and compare them side by side. If you do use a pivot, one non-pivoted dimension and one measure must be included in the look in order to pivot with another dimension. And then the filter sets limits for the data in the look by using any field as a filter without necessarily adding the field to the look itself. So I can use year as a filter without showing the year in the visualization. Dimension filters behave a little bit differently than measure filters, so you'll want to keep an eye on that. You can select filters in the right-hand Filters pane. Filters can also be applied to dashboards as a whole, and I'll show you that when we get into the Editing Dashboards and Looks section a little bit later. When you select filters, it's very easy to use, similar to any filter that you use for search options or search functionality. You select your operator, specify what you want to search for, remove or add multiple filters of that type. And then you can even click the gear icon next to the filter if you choose to actually see that dimension or measure in your data table and visualization. And make sure you click Run when you're ready to filter by that criteria. Now, the data pane in the Explore area is where you will actually be setting your data query, what you want to look for. It's color-coded. Dimensions from your data are in blue. Measures, or the calculations that are run off of your data, are in orange, and these measures are pre-created for you by our professional services and development teams here at Jagger. But then you can also add additional calculations on top of the measures. So those create calculations of measures that you've pulled into the data table. You can drag the column headers left and right to update the table and the visualization if applicable, if you're using a visualization type that depends on. If you hover over any column header, click the gear icon to see a menu of options, including hide or show from the visualization, which is helpful if you want to see it in the data table, you want it to be included in the query, but you don't need to see it in your pie chart, for example. You can click on any data point in the data table to see a menu of options, which can include options to drill into the data further or create a filter of that value. So if you've already pulled something in, you can easily create a filter there. There are a few more data table options that I'd like to mention. First, you can set a row limit after you sort the data table to show only the first number of rows. In this example, the row limit is set to 500. So let's say you wanted to sort the table in descending spend order and then just see the top 500 results. You can use the row limit for that function. But I do want to mention that 5,000 rows will be returned at maximum in the data table. So when you're looking at Looker in the data table, you'll only see up to 5,000 rows. However, you can download all of the results beyond the 5,000 limit, and we'll get into that later in this training. The idea behind Looker is that you should be able to aggregate your data or filter it in such a way to create reports that actually make sense for the data that you're looking at. But we do understand that sometimes you want to see beyond that, like invoice line item descriptions and things of that nature. So to do that, to see all of the lines, millions of lines, you can use the download function and download that data for viewing outside of the visualization tool. You can set a column limit, especially if there's a pivot dimension that's included in the table. It'll show the first 50 columns. This is typically used maybe for if you want to see monthly transactions or weekly transactions and you've pivoted on the transaction week, let's say. You can show the first 20 weeks or first 50 columns. There's no limit here, but for best user experience, we recommend a column limit maximum of 50. You also have to keep in mind that this is a data query, so Looker is running the query looking at your data to first pull in any dimensions, and then they're going to be doing the measures off of those dimensions and then running any calculations. So the more columns you have and the more pieces you've pulled in, the longer the query will take. And finally, you can also add totals to the table, either totals for columns or row totals. You can also use the Calculations button at the top of the data pane to create on-the-fly metrics, similarly to using formulas in Excel. First, you need to add all fields for the calculation to the data table and click Run. You'll want to add in all of your dimensions and measures. Then click the Calculations button, and that will open up a window where you can use Looker expressions to create calculations based on that data. Now, we do want to mention here that our teams have created quite a few measures that you should be able to pull in without using calculations. This is a kind of a super user or advanced user functionality, but if you do want to try your hand at some calculations, you can use the help text there for more information to help you write those calculations. If you are looking for a measure that you can't find that you think would be helpful to others, please let our teams know. Our professional services team would be glad to look into that. We want that feedback. Click Save Table Calculations to save it to your table, and then don't forget to click Run at the top to actually run the calculations and run the query. So now with the visualization pane, once you've set your data table and it's pulling in the right information, the query has been run, use the visualization pane to help others get the picture. So this is the visualization of your data query. Again, they are paired together as a look so that users can always drill into the data behind the picture. There are multiple different visualization types that can be selected and customized to provide the best picture to understand the data. So with the visualization configuration, you can use the icons at the top to choose from several different visualization types, from a table, a scatter plot, a pie, and then use the gear icon on the right to open the chart settings. This is where you can limit rows, swap axes, change colors, create custom axis names. You can even update the monetary formatting. Instead of showing millions, you might need to show billions, depending on the type of data or the volume of data that you're looking at. And this uses ECMA 376 spreadsheet format codes. You can also hide and remove data from the visualization. So if you've built your data query and you want to see supplier parent count and the total spend, and maybe you've pulled in invoice and you want to keep that together, but you don't want to show all of those measures in the visualization, you can click on the gear icon that's found after you hover over the column in the data pane, and then click Hide from Visualization to hide it from the picture that's created, or you can click Remove, which removes it from the data query altogether. Don't forget to click Run after you make those changes. So let's get into the application, and I'll use the Explore from Here functionality to create an ad hoc report. So we'll add some data to the table, use the data as a filter or a pivot to focus the view. We'll work in the table to remove and hide columns or sort data, and then we'll edit the visualization so you can see just a small sample of the power of Looker. So here we are in the application in the Explore area. To remind you how we got here, we started from one of the shared dashboards, specifically the supplier data by category dashboard, and we focused in on the business services taxonomies category level 1 so that it would show us the different category level 2s within that. Now let's say we wanted to add additional information to this data query, or filter it, or pivot. Let's say we wanted to add the transaction year. So I can use the data section on the left-hand side and search for the dimension or measure that I want to pull in. I can also just browse through the different categories there. If I wanted to pull in a dimension to the data pane, I can click on that dimension, and you see here now I have a column for transaction year. I'll click Run, and notice that changed purple. So anytime you see it's purple, you'll want to click the Run button so that you'll actually run the query. Now you see I have the different taxonomy levels, and there's a different row for each transaction year that I have data for in my data set. This can be a little confusing to compare, as a lot of these different category levels are separated from year to year, so I can't really see them very well. Instead of having this as a separate column, I can pivot on the transaction year and compare those side to side for each category level 2. So I can either use the pivot button from the left-hand pane for the specific dimension for which I want to pivot, or from the table itself, I can go to the gear icon for that column and then choose Pivot. Now it's going to create separate columns side by side. I'll click Run, and as soon as the data query is run, now I just see the category level 2 names on the left, and then a master column for 2014 and one for 2015, similarly to a pivot table that you might use in Excel. So now I'm looking at the data. I can see the supplier parent count, the PO count, and total spend for each year for each of these categories. Let's say I want to sort by the total spend in 2015. I'll just click on the column header, and now it's listed in order from most spend to least for 2015's total spend. Now from here, I have 16 categories, but I just want to keep my eye on maybe the top 5 or those that have over 10 million in total spend. There's a number of ways to do this. I could use each of these data points and create filters for those taxonomy categories. But from year to year, the top 5 may change depending on the category that we're in or that we're looking at. So I could do that, create multiple filters for each of these category levels, but I don't think that's going to work out so well. Instead, maybe I'll use total spend as a filter. And here I have a total spend filter added in the filters pane. I can use my operator to say greater than or equal to, and let's just focus on 10 million. I'll run that, and you'll see that my query updates to only those categories above 10 million in total spend. I could also limit it by the row limit, so if I just wanted to truly focus on the top 5 or the top 10, I could do that with the row limit. So once you have the data query and the filter set, then you can focus on the visualization. So from the visualization pane, I can see the total spend for each of these categories that have over 10 million in total spend. But I'm not seeing the parent count, the supplier parent count, or the PO count. And that's because the range that I have set, or the default range for this look, is in millions, where the counts that we see in the data table are only in the hundreds. So I can go to the edit pane, or the edit option, the gear icon within the visualization pane, and use the different tabs here to edit the details of the visualization. So first, let's go to the Y tab, and this is where I can separate the left and right axes. So if I want to leave the counts together, since those are in the hundreds, and then move the spend over to the right axes, since that's in millions, now that's separated for me automatically and set the right range. So now I can see the counts for supplier parents and POs. But let's go a step further and go to values. Since I'm only looking at 5 categories here, let's turn on the value labels, and that will give me the counts and the amount all together. It's also good because I'm looking at counts versus spend amount, which are varying ranges. I'm using 2 axes. So the value label might help me get the picture, get an idea for what I'm looking at when I'm just looking at the visualization itself. And then let's say I wanted to change the colors. I'll go into the Series tab. Under the colors selection, there's several different color selections to choose from. Just choose the random color selection. But you can even go on to specify each particular color if you wanted to change that to your organization's brand colors or wanted to highlight red versus green depending on the type of visualization you're using. So now I've saved my visualization, and if everything is as I want it to be, I can go to the gear icon to save, but that's our next lesson. So now let's take the work that we've done so far to view the dashboards and then go exploring and actually save the new data query and save the look that we've created. So for that, I'm going to go straight back into the application and use what we've built so far, save that as a look, and also show you the download options, as well as how to save and add to a dashboard. So here's the look that we just created. I have everything set the way I'd like it to be. So now I can go to the gear icon and choose Save as a Look to save the look individually. I would choose from between the personal or group spaces if you have that activated, and then create a title and optional description for the look. Once I click Save, I would be able to access that from the 4-square menu, the Personal Looks area. If you wanted to download the look, you can go to the gear icon and choose Download. And in the window that appears, you'll have several options for how you download this information. From the File Format dropdown, you can choose the format for the file you want to export. So choose Excel or CSV to download the data. You can even choose the PNG image of the visualization if you just want the image or the bar chart or the pie chart. This is especially helpful if you need to just have the image for a presentation or you need to just share that with others outside of the Looker tool. Then you can go on to choose how to display the results, how you want the values, and then within the limit area is where you can choose what limit to put on the export. With the limit option, you can choose which results to include in your download. By choosing results in table, it will download exactly what you see in the data table. But as we know, there's a 5,000 row limit to the data table in Looker. So if you want to show all of your data or all of the results, you would select all results here, and then it would show you beyond the 5,000 row limit. Now we'll get into it a little bit later. There are some exceptions to using the all results option that limit your download to 100,000 rows, but I'll get into that when we get back into the slide presentation. If you do run into one of those exceptions, you'll choose the custom option, and then you can specify exactly how many rows you want to include, how many columns. Here, because there are some exceptions that limit you to 100,000 rows, you could just update the row count to 100,000. Then you can also specify the file name, and then you would just click download. Once the file downloads, it will download according to the settings that you saved in the web browser that you're using to download. We do recommend, if you choose the download option, that you also save the look. Chances are you'll get a request for that same information in the future, and it takes a lot less time to come in and download a saved look than it does to go in, create the look, run the query, then download it. You also have the option from the gear icon to save and add to dashboard. So if you know you want to create a collection of looks that will be comparing similar information, maybe across different departments, across different years, choose Save and Add to Dashboard, and then you can save the look and add it to the appropriate dashboard, all with a few clicks. So here we'll specify the title and then choose the space. So here I'm going to choose the personal space. I can already see the looks that I have saved there. I can search through those looks if I want to replace one. But I'm going to save this as a new look, so I'll click Save and View Look. And then I'm prompted to add the look to a dashboard in this space. If I don't have any dashboards in the personal space created yet, I can choose New Dashboard and then enter a dashboard name in the field that prompts me. Or I can choose one of the dashboards that have already been created, if that's where I want to save that, and click Add. So now I'm looking at the look by itself, but because I just created it, I have a link to the Level 2 Categories Comparison dashboard where I chose to save this look. So I can use the Foursquare icon, go to the Level 2 Categories Comparison dashboard, and here I can see the top 5 business services Level 2 categories by year look that I just created. You can also see I've already created a look there to compare the top 5 materials and supplies Level 2 categories. And if I wanted to take this a step further and really quickly create another look that compares a different Level 1 category, I can go in to explore one of these looks. And then by simply changing the filter to a different top level category and running that, now I'm looking at all of the professional services Level 2 categories, the top 5 of those. Go in, save that to my dashboard. I've chosen the personal space. I'll save the look, and then I'll choose the same dashboard. And then if I quickly navigate back to that, either using that link at the top or the Foursquare icon, now I have 3 looks side by side, all comparing Level 2 categories, the top 5 Level 2 categories, for each of these Level 1 categories in my taxonomy: materials and supplies, business services, and professional services. From any dashboard that you create, you can use the gear icon to download the entire thing as a PDF. So if someone in your organization who doesn't have access to SpendRadar or Looker is asking for this type of comparison, you can quickly download each of these looks, the visualizations, exactly what you see on the dashboard, as a PDF so that they can review that. This is great if you're giving a presentation and need to create some handouts, or if you just need to supply some information to a different department that doesn't have access here. So let's quickly review some of the options that you have for saving and downloading your looks. To save your look, use the gear icon and choose Save as a Look. Again, this works like a bookmark to easily access that specific query again in the future. You can use the Foursquare menu, or if you save the look eventually to a dashboard, you can access it from that. Make sure to save your look first. It must be saved before it can be added to a dashboard. We do recommend that you save it before you download it. Personal looks can only be seen by the individual user. Group looks can only be seen by users that are given access to that group. Any look that's not added to a dashboard can still be accessed from the Foursquare icon menu. And there's no limit to the number of saved looks that you create, so have fun and explore. You can also download or export your look for use outside of the system. However, with Looker and the power of Looker, you should be able to do what you previously did outside of your reporting tool within the application by building a number of different looks and dashboards to analyze your data. We do understand that sometimes you do need to download that information, so to do that from within Looker, choose Download from the gear icon menu to obtain a copy of the look as a number of different file types. You can see the different file formats shown to the right. If you choose Excel or CSV, you can download the data, or you can even choose the PNG image of the visualization to use in presentations or to share in an email, for example. If you do run into the 5,000 row limit in your data table, but you know there's more information, more data behind the scenes that you want to download, use the All Results option in the Limit section to pull all of the results from your data. So that goes past the 5,000 row limit and allows you to pull as many rows as you need to. There are some exceptions to the All Results option. If your data table contains calculations or measures that calculate percent of total, percent of previous, or running total, you're limited to only 100,000 rows in your export. Now, within the different shared dashboards that we have available, if you go to the Opportunity Assessment dashboard and use the 80/20 suppliers look, which shows you all of the 80/20 supplier parent names, that's the only shared look that contains one of these exceptions. So if you were to download or export that look as a CSV file or in Excel, you would be limited to only 100,000 rows. If you have more than 100,000 supplier parents, that's the only time you're going to run into that issue. However, you might pull in measures or calculations into looks that you create yourself. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of the 100,000 row limit when calculations or these type of measures are included in the data table. If you do have those in your data table and you want to download the data, we suggest that you remove those calculations and measures and instead download the unfiltered, non-aggregated data and then do those calculations outside of the system. In most cases, you probably won't run into that 100,000 row limitation, but if you do, you can choose the custom option within the limit section and then specify a 100,000 row maximum in the settings there. The download option can be used, as I said before, to share with others outside of Jagger Spend Radar, but if you do download, we strongly recommend that you save the look before you download. It's much easier and much faster to download a look that has been saved than to have to go through the process of creating a look and then downloading it afterwards. Once a look is saved, or if you know that you want to save that to a dashboard, choose Save and Add to Dashboard from the gear icon menu. It will prompt you to save the look first and then decide whether to add it to a dashboard in the personal or the group space. Once you add the look to a dashboard in that selected space, you can either choose the dashboard from those that you've already created or choose New Dashboard to create one on the fly. If you create a look and don't choose to save it to a dashboard at the same time, you can always pull that into a dashboard at a later time as well. You can access the dashboard and the saved look from the Foursquare menu that's available on any page of Looker. And there are no hard limits to the number of dashboards created or the number of looks saved to a dashboard, but the rule of thumb for best user experience is to limit the number of looks on a dashboard to 6, give or take. and use a variety of visualization types if appropriate. Limiting it to 6 will help you make sense of the reports that you're analyzing. There's less scrolling on the page, meaning you're less likely to miss something under the fold of your web browser window. The response time to run and present your looks is faster when there are fewer looks on one page. Remember, it's a data query that's running against your data, first pulling in dimensions, then pulling in measures, then running any calculations that you may have added to your table. So the more looks you have on a dashboard, the longer it will take to load. And really, it's just an easier user experience and interface when your dashboards are focused. You can actually make sense and find answers and make decisions about your spend. The different visualization types that are available will help create visual interest and help you understand your data. So now let's talk about editing your dashboards and looks. First, we'll get into the application and edit a personal dashboard. We'll take a look at a look by itself so that we can edit that and show you all the options that are available there. And here I am on the personal dashboard that I created. As a reminder, you can get to that from the 4 square icon by going to the personal space and choosing any of the dashboards, or if you just wanted to look at a look individually, you can choose those here. From the dashboard itself, there's an edit option, and this will expand and open up a few different options for editing the dashboard as a whole. First, you can change the name of the dashboard by typing in a new name there or editing that. You can pull in looks or add or remove looks for this dashboard. So if you created a look without thinking about the dashboard you might want to save it to, this is where you can pull in any of your personal looks into that dashboard. Personal looks can only be pulled into personal dashboards. Group looks can only be pulled into group dashboards, so those spaces are separate. If you created something in your personal dashboard that you then want to save to a group dashboard, all you have to do is explore that look and then save it into the different space. The text option allows you to add text onto your dashboard. So this is good for maybe notes about what is being viewed there, a summary. So I'll just type some text so that you can see this pulls in as a block of text that you can then move around and place where you need to on the screen. Filters allow you to add filters to the top of the dashboard. You can also select which dashboard tiles should be updated when the filter is changed. So if you only want one of the looks to change with that filter, you can turn that on or off here. Then under settings, there's options for, again, you can change the title, you can choose whether to run on load, auto refresh, even auto refresh the different looks there. While you're in dashboard editing, there's a number of options to edit the look. So if you click edit, this will take you into a window that allows you to it's just like the Explore functionality where you can access the filters, visualization, and data, and then save any changes from that area. If you are in this space and you're looking at it, and instead of changing that, you want to explore and go on to create another look, maybe of a different category level 1, choose Explore from here. Don't forget about the Run button when you're editing your look to update both the visualization and data panes. Click Done Editing when you're done editing the dashboard details. If you want to focus in on one of these looks and edit that from there, go to the menu and choose View Original Look. That will allow you to look at the look by itself, and from there you can go on to the gear icon to edit the look. And this is where you can pull in different information. Now I do know, if I go back to my personal dashboard, when I was building the top 5 business services level 2 categories by year, I think I used a filter. Instead of choosing truly the top 5, I used a filter to just show those with spend over 10 million. So I really want to edit that so that it's specifically top 5. So I'll view the original look, go on to edit it, and because the amount may change from year to year, I'm going to remove this filter. And instead, in my data pane, I'll set the limit to 5. Now I'll run my query, and now I'm truly just showing the top 5. They're the same categories in this instance, But once I pull in my 2016, my 2017, and so on, I'll be able to just focus on the top 5 categories for each year. Once I save that, it will not only update the look, but it will also update the dashboard or dashboards that the look is saved to. So if I get back to that dashboard, I'll have that available there. Other editing options within the dashboard, once I go back into the edit space, I can drag the different tiles to different locations and I can resize them. So if I want to maybe make each of these a little bit smaller, I can do that. And then even drag the corner to show them side by side. I can even drag that text box that I have, maybe just with some notes about what's being seen on the dashboard, and resize that. So now once I'm done editing, I can see everything from one area. I can go back in to resize things as I need to, if I just want to spread things out a little bit. And again, anyone in this space, right now I'm working in the personal space, but if I were in the group space, anyone in that space with access to that dashboard would be able to make those changes. So back in the presentation, just to review a couple of the options with editing, you can edit a dashboard by clicking Edit from the upper right corner of a personal or group dashboard that you have access to. Then you can edit the name, you can add or remove looks, add text, change filters, apply settings, and then make sure you click Done Editing when you're complete with those edits. You can also drag the lower right corner of any look to resize it, and then grab the handle in the upper left corner of any look to move to a different position. And then click Done Editing to save that. And just remember that changes made to dashboards will be seen by whomever has access. For personal dashboards, it's only that user. For group dashboards, it's all users in that group. But shared dashboards may not be edited, as they're kind of the source of truth for your instance of Looker and your data. When you're within the dashboard editing functionality, each individual look has a number of options. You can explore from here to dig into the data and create a new look. You can view the original look to see the look by itself apart from other looks on the dashboard. And you can go on to edit the look if you need to make changes to its query or visualization. Download the data to download that particular look as text, CSV, PNG, or remove the look from the dashboard. The look will still be available from the Foursquare menu by itself, but you can remove it from the dashboard using this menu. When you're editing a look, there's a number of options. When you're actually looking at it by itself, you can edit it to make changes to that look's data query and visualization. You can add it to a dashboard if you haven't already. Clear Cache and Refresh will rerun the query for fresh data, and Delete will permanently delete the look. Use caution with that option, but just remember you can always rebuild a look using the different dashboards that are available by going in and exploring the data. To view a look by itself, take one of the following steps, either from a dashboard, click the Looks gear icon and select View Original Look, or find it from the Foursquare icon in the space that contains that look. When you're editing a look, there are a number of different options you have there. You can edit the look name. You can search for data fields to add or filter or pivot with, edit the filters, visualization, and data panes as needed, and then click Run. Click Save to save the changes permanently, or click Cancel in the lower right corner to return to the look without saving if you were just trying to explore and find a little more information. If you want to go on to create a new look from this look, choose Explore from here in the lower left corner to create a new look instead of changing the current one. So now let's talk about validation. So really the end goal of taking this training is to prepare you for validation, where you're going to be comparing your old tool and the data there to what you can see in Looker. So I want to go through a few talking points to prepare you for validation and enable you to get started looking at your site and exploring Looker with your data. So really there are two goals for validation. The first is to become familiar with the Looker user interface. So we want you to be comfortable navigating in the Jagger Source to Pay suite, navigating within Looker and the different reports and dashboards that are available there, and also comfortable with building your own reports, going into the Explore from Here functionality and adding details to the data query, changing the visualization, adding filters, and saving that so that you can find answers about your organization's spend. But the second goal for validation is to verify the data accuracy between QlikView, your old tool, and Looker, and confirm that the data or spend totals that you find in the Looker visualizations match your prior reporting. The time frame for validation is 3 weeks per the SOW, and if you do have any questions, please document those, document any pieces that you see, and follow up with your Jagger Spend Radar Professional Services Project Manager with those questions. Again, the first goal is to become familiar with Looker. So we encourage you to explore the available dashboards and looks that are available out of the box, all of those shared dashboards, and then get comfortable with it. We have a number of exercises in the reference guide that you can download in the same area where you found this video. Look for the different shared dashboards and go on to explore to create spend by year for a specific supplier, supplier count by category, and yearly spend by category. And we hope these looks will help you create a jumping off point for additional reports to be built. So within the reference guide, there will be instructions for how to get started, how to navigate to the proper area within the Jagger Source to Pay suite, and then instructions for how to create each look. So here with the spend by year for a specific supplier, you'll be pulling in dimensions, changing the visualization, and then saving the look, as well as creating a new dashboard in your personal space. Remember, the personal space is your sandbox, so you can always go back in and remove these later, but you can keep them and use them as a jumping off point for additional validation and additional reporting. Supplier count by category is a look that you can create to use the remove functionality, adding, changing the visualization. Yearly spend by category, we'll get into using a pivot as well as sorting. And then with the bonus look, you'll use the third look that you created and use that as a jumping off point to change a few details and create an additional look. This will also have you changing the configurations for the visualization. So there's some tips on the side for the different format codes that you can use. Depending on the supplier that you're looking at, you might want to show this in billions, millions, or thousands. So there are the codes that you can use to change that in your visualization. Then you'll go on to review and edit your new dashboard that you created with all of these different exercises. So this is really just to kind of warm up your muscles and prepare you for when you'll actually be using Looker to create your own dashboards, just so you have a feel for how you can edit that and make changes. I mentioned best practices throughout the training, but I've collected them here so that while you're going through the exercises and using the reference guide, you'll also be reminded of these best practices. Use Explore from here to create a new look, and use Edit to make changes to any personal look that you've created. Remember that the goal here is to make accurate assumptions about your data. So whether you're viewing the look within the application or you export it, keep in mind what limitations are there. Within the application, when you're looking at the look itself, you're limited to only 5,000 rows. So if that row limit is breached, make sure you use the download option to export and see all results to make accurate assumptions about your spend data. There's no limit to the columns used in a looks data table, but keep under 50 for best performance. There's no limit to the number of looks that you add to a dashboard, but keep to around 6 for the best user experience, depending on what you're using. And there's no limit to the number of looks and dashboards that you create. So use your personal space as your sandbox to create as many looks and dashboards as you need. You can always go back in and remove those, clean it up if you need to, organize looks into different dashboards as you need to, so you can make better sense out of your data. And then finally, use the visualization editing options to create the best pictures of your data so you can make the most sense out of it. The second goal for validation is to verify the data accuracy between QlikView and Looker. This process is important for the preparation for your use of Looker. Not only do we want you to be comfortable, we want you to be confident that the data is accurate. We recommend that you spend approximately 3 hours per week verifying the data in your Looker audit site and becoming familiar with the navigation and reporting tools. On the next slide, there are some suggestions for the validation process for this goal of verifying the data accuracy. Those are also included in the reference guide. Please test these items as a baseline and then go on to include any additional testing that your team would like to conduct. If you want to focus in different areas Again, there's no limit to the number of looks and dashboards you create, so use our suggestions as a baseline and then go on from there to test whatever you want to. Please document any data variation or issues, as well as any questions, and the Jagger Professional Services team will help you answer those questions. Make a list, and then when the professional services team works with you, you'll be able to review those details together. So some suggestions for validation that you can use as a baseline. First, compare ClickView and Looker values for the following key fields. Things like total spend, number of suppliers, number of invoices. Compare specific date ranges. Compare totals for specific suppliers like top 10, number of POs for top 10 suppliers. Compare category data. Create a sample of custom reports using the Explore area. So this is where you can kind of go crazy and use your unlimited number of looks and dashboards to create whatever you want to create to compare what you had in Click to Looker. And then make sure to go into all of the shared dashboards and review those for accuracy. So the summary, opportunity assessment, executive dashboard, and so on. And kind of go through this suggested list, and it will help you create that baseline for comparing the data between the two sites. So to recap, we covered a lot of ground in this training. We went through some Looker basics, so you had a general idea of how Looker looks, as well as its terminology. With Dashboards 101, we used the dashboards as a jumping off point to find more information, and then we went on to find answers in the Explore from Here area. Remember to save your look after you've done the work to create your query and set your visualization. Save that so you can recall that information at any time, and go on to download that if you need to. Then we also briefly demonstrated how to edit dashboards and looks. And then we also talked about validation, the goals for validation, and provided some suggestions of what you can do to validate your new Looker site. We always welcome feedback here at Jagger. If you have any feedback about this training or any of the materials that were provided for training, please navigate back to Jagger University transcript. You'll have a link to that from email, or if you log into the site directly, go to My Transcript and find the training session, the Looker Readiness training session. Click on Evaluate, and then complete evaluation and submit. That will give us feedback of how we can improve this training and provide more options to our Spend Radar clients, as well as all Jagger clients. And just a plug for Jagger as a whole, Spend Analytics at Jagger is just a part of our comprehensive suite of products. With Jagger Source to Pay, we offer a fully integrated suite of SaaS source-to-pay applications on a single platform. So it's everything from upstream spend analytics, sourcing, and contract management to downstream e-procurement and accounts payable. Thank you so much for watching this training, and I wish you well in validation.